of the rim. Garnett on the slam foul. Using Curry way downtown. Oh, what a shot from Curry.
Man, I absolutely considered ducking the smoke this year. This postseason, the series are not as cut and dry as a lot of them last year were. If you'll recall, in the 2023 predictions, I believe I only got a total of 2 series wrong in the whole bracket. I think I will exceed this number in the first round alone. Outside of 1 and 8, it feels almost any of these could go either way. There's so many different factors ranging from on-court play to the injuries certain guys are dealing with and when they'll be back. You'll find as I'm going through these, as far as making a decision, I just don't know what to do, yet I still will make decisions. The only thing I know for certain, the only thing I would bet on is these playoffs are about to be a banger, which you can also bet on with DraftKings. The playoffs are kicking off, and it's time to bring the action straight to your home with my partners over at DraftKings Sportsbook. Right now, all new customers who bet just $5 on anything will get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings app now and sign up using my promo code DOM2K. You heard it right. New customers that bet $5 on anything will receive $200 in bonus bets instantly. If sports betting isn't available in your state yet, don't worry. You can still get in on the action with DraftKings Daily Fantasy and have the shot to win cash prizes. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. New customers that use my promo code DOM2K and bet just $5 on any wager will get $200 in bonus bets instantly. That's promo code DOM2K only at DraftKings Sportsbook. I guess I got my wish. Bucks Pacers was one of these series I was hopeful for months ago, yet it's happening under less than ideal circumstances. Dame isn't quite the player he was in Portland throughout this year. Meanwhile, Giannis is dealing with quite possibly the worst injury that can pop up right at the end of a season. Now, I will say Luka had a similar situation in 2022 and recovered in time for his team to make the conference finals, only their playstyles are vastly different, so I'm not sure what Giannis will look like on a rushed return. On top of my lack of confidence, Milwaukee can hold the fort in a series like this without him. So yeah, unfortunately, his situation has a ton to do with the outcome once again, which I do believe was going to be competitive and close whether he was healthy or not. As the Bucks, you already didn't have great defensive options against Halliburton, and now you're either missing probably the most important defensive cog on the roster, or you've got him and he's hampered while being overtasked. Indiana being what they are on offense right now, paired up against an even further deteriorated Milwaukee D, is surely a recipe for disaster, and those Halliburton pick and rolls aren't about to get any easier to guard. If they were healthy, of course the Bucks could also find various pressure points in a softer yet improved Pacers defense. There's just going to be so much riding on a Lillard who might not have the needed gear this season. Keep an eye on this one, cause if Giannis just pops back up like the Undertaker the way he did in 2021 on what, I don't know, it looked like a worse injury back then, the math changes. He's been very effective against the Pacers. With the info we have today where he is probably going to miss game 1, I would expect he misses more. I do not think Milwaukee, in the situation they're in, will be able to compensate enough. I'm going to go Pacers in 6 as of right now. What are we to do with Cavs Magic? It's a type of series the modern fan base claims they want, with defense, intensity, etc., yet will far and away be the lowest rated series of the first round. I attribute that more to how good every other matchup is, cause I'm looking forward to this. The Cavs interest me mainly because when they ran up against New York last year, Jared Allen wasn't ready, Evan Mobley's offensive ability was severely limited, and the Knicks looked at Isaac Okoro early on and said, make some shots. With almost no pressure points left to go to, Cleveland was promptly dealt with. Here against Orlando, they're facing a heavily defensive-minded team, this time with a near 40% three-point shooter in Okoro and the addition of Max Strus, who has yet to gain his 22 shooting stroke back, but can still hit. When the series starts, my main question will be, how do the Magic react to their added shooters? When Okoro comes in, will they treat him like a 40% shooter, or will they dare him to hit in a playoff setting, potentially forcing the coaching staff's hand? And that'll lead to the question I already have: who will be drawing the Paolo assignment most of the time? His game has evolved so much, it's not as simple as saying we've got size down low to close off his drives. This guy throws in impressive passes every time you watch him. Although you think of Orlando as needing more offense down the road, they technically have just enough shooting surrounding Paolo and Franz to shift the tide in a series like this. For instance, if just Suggs and Ingles are hitting, how many features can Cleveland take away? Then again, if they are not, but the Cavs shooters are, what's left for the Magic to minimize? Not to mention how Garland's impact potentially changes the series. He's had a down year, and does that continue into this series, then leave Mitchell out to dry? With Orlando's defensive capability, I kinda think it will. These back and forth questions, which are likely to change from game to game, are why I think it'll be a 7-game series where I'll choose the Cavaliers. While Orlando is young with nothing to lose and will presumably be around a while, Cleveland's future with Spida is pretty much on the line in this run. And with this being the case, I expect to see a sense of urgency from them out the gates. Wow, okay, New York did all that work to finish second, and instead of drawing the Hawks, Bulls, or Jimmyless Heat, they're getting what would have been the MVP if his legs held up. That's the question though, right? Just how healthy is Joel Embiid coming in? I ask because winning this series would heavily run through him, and I wasn't exactly impressed by how I saw them react to Miami's defensive pressure in the play-in. Sure, they eked it out, only after 15 turnovers and looking totally lost on certain possessions. They were finally able to break the zone, and Batum had a legacy game, so here we are. I like a lot of what Philly has done with the roster in the midst of the turmoil they faced in the last year. Now they have to take it up against what's been a buzzsaw of a defensive team with OG Anunoby in the lineup. But wait, that's not all. Jalen Brunson has been absolutely unstoppable, while Dante DiVincenzo has been the exact type of release valve from 3 you'd want on a team that otherwise looks easy to stop in a playoff setting at face value. Speaking of playoff setting, this is where I'm most interested in what New York's offense will look like for certain stretches. Yes, get your jokes off about playoff Julius Randle. However, there's been a stark difference in this team when both he and Brunson are off the floor, which they will see a decent dose of stretches of throughout this run. When those lineups come out, are they able to combat a Philly offense that might still get to its spots through Maxey and shooting when Embiid is sitting? Maxey is what's going to be the huge decider for me. It just opens up so much for the rest of the team if he and Embiid have got the two-man sauce running consistently, while New York will be dependent on Brunson and whoever joins him on any given night. All this being said, I really like how New York matches up defensively with a lot of teams, and I could see their pressure creating absolute havoc for Philly in the half court. And once again, the condition Embiid is in does factor in for me. Maybe it'll improve throughout the series, though I look at these predictions as if I was putting my own money on them, and in a series where a guy is just returning from injury and you kinda don't know what you would get if it was a 7-game series, I'm gonna go Knicks in 6. I am not impressed with the Clippers. They had a large stretch through the season when Scary Hour seemed activated. Then the press conference responses from their stars were super underwhelming during their struggles. Paul George's future seems to loom over the team, and now we are, you guessed it, waiting for a Kawhi Leonard status update. Like I just said, I look at these series as if I had my own money on them, and when I'm in a situation that forces me to split hairs in what seems to be an ultra competitive series coming up, this news alone is enough for me to go with the Mavs. They've looked fantastic down the stretch. They cooked at the trade deadline, addressing some obvious questions, and all of a sudden you see both a humming offense and options on D. If you'll think back to the West video I did at season start, I wanted to see specifically if Kyrie and Luka could not just hoop, but mesh at a winning level, which they have. So now I'm looking at Los Angeles like, how much can you take away from Dallas this time? In the past, once Luka's heroics wore off as the series drug on, it was a wrap. This time, he has a star to consistently take turns with, higher than the likes of early 2020s Brunson or Porzingis. And yeah, who's guarding who? Westbrook in this series is in a sweet spot because regardless of whether he's capable of the showing he put on in Phoenix last postseason, in theory he can just be thrown in as a defensive pest on Kyrie when someone else isn't guarding him. Then there's the Luka issue. I assume Kawhi and PG will take turns, but once again, how is Kawhi doing right now? I don't have answers. I just have Tyrone Lue being cryptic about whether he's even playing game 1. Which James Harden and Paul George are showing up to the party and for how long? Harden last year against Boston had one good game where he was in his prime, 2 games where he was back to his usual self, another prime game, another where is he game. Make no mistake, I wanted this series mainly because of these factors. Between the names, you've got a lot of potential for chaos and legendary performances. When I have to pick, I'm choosing the unit I have more answers for, going Dallas in 6, and not the team I've watched deal with misfortune in the postseason for 5 straight years. If there were a world where Kawhi comes back fully healthy and does the things we've seen him do in round 1, my pick would probably sway Clips in 7. I just don't have the current information to be able to bet on it safely. Oof, this might be my favorite series of the whole gig. The Suns catch a first round matchup in a team they've gone 3-0 against over the season, most recently downright smacking them in a warm up very close to the first round. This is why there's no such thing as hiding or choosing your matchup in the West. A young team's first taste of the playoffs, while they've got some expectations, lies in a squad who were projected to finish higher and likely would have without nagging injuries mostly at the start. Okay, Rudy Gobert, right? Deserving of the depoy this year. He's got better defenders in front of him now, so hopefully he won't be hung out to dry on the perimeter the way he was in Utah. My question is, will Minnesota hit enough shots to make having him on the floor so much reasonable? I ask because imagine in your head, Ant comes off a screen, Suns put 2 to the ball, Rudy rolls, which doesn't fully move anyone anyways, but he's not getting a free dunk, so now either someone's cutting or there's a swing that initiates to find a shooter. I'm preparing for a world where the Suns are able to live with this action if the Wolves offense isn't necessarily humming. Now, if you're Finch, you've got options, cause there's a shiny Nas Reed sitting there to really muck things up. Still, you need Gobert's defense and rim protection to make your team a long-term threat, right? Also, how important is said rim protection in a series where these 3 guys on the Suns are all adept at pull-ups or mid-range? It's not like any of them absolutely need to get downhill to get their games off. In short, I just see a giant chess match with Phoenix trying to pull him out of the paint, while the Wolves absolutely have to find ways to match an offense capable of exploding from game to game. This is why the Suns, while easy to doubt, are also not the team you want to be tasked with taking care of. That being said, both teams have answers for each other, so it basically comes down to who hits their buttons first. If games 1 and 2 happen to be a scenario where 2 of the 3 Sun stars are finding their spots while Grayson Allen goes 40% from 3, if the Suns slip up and start fouling Gobert and giving him easy buckets instead of forcing him to make a pass, if he does make that pass and Cat and company are just hitting, literally, what happens first? Anyways, in said toss-up, I'm going to choose Suns in 7. I do not see the Wolves as some unbeatable force just because they had a good season and are seeded highly. I think there's enough pressure the Suns can apply, and if they hit Minnie hard enough, the response might not be adequate. Nuggets in 5. By the time this video drops, the first round will likely be decided, but whether it is or isn't is kind of irrelevant cause I think either first seed should be able to advance in the current situation. Boston will play one of the Bulls or Jimmyless Heat, and against my better judgment, I'm calling a sweep this time either way. Seriously, at some point I have to be able to trust the Celtics to just go get a job done as expected, and there's seriously no reason this year either team should be able to get a game. I'm looking at a squad that should be insanely hungry to prove something. Years of coming to the doorstep, changes, everything you could imagine to finally get over the top. There is no reason to get in a series with the Chicago Bulls and lose a single game. There is no reason to run into the Heat missing Jimmy Butler this time, missed out on every star in the summer imaginable, clearly nearing the end of the Jimmy timeline in general, and for some reason still struggle. If Miami's own just causes question marks above Boston's head for a game while Hero and Robinson shoot 200%, then whatever. But I am not accepting this Celtics team not handedly winning either series. If they do not handedly win either series, I will probably give up on an actual run happening this year. Then again, the 08 team got taken 7 by the Hawks, so who knows. The Thunder are in a different situation, being a younger team who's grabbed the 1 seed way ahead of schedule, yet I still expect them to prevail here, especially if they draw the Pelicans. Alluding to lack of information from earlier, Zion went out with a hamstring in a game where he was getting a national chance to show how good he's been all year. Of course, only to end prematurely to where now we've got no clue when he'd even be back if New Orleans did advance. With or without him, I'd have had OKC in the series. As seen in the play-in, Ingram does not appear to be all the way back to me yet, and I don't think any amount of Zion explosions would have won them 4 games against a Thunder team who's a lot better than they're being given credit for. Knowing this, I fully believe it had been an entertaining series between 2 young teams where OKC gets by in 6, which should now be like 5 or less if it does happen. Same goes for Sacramento. It's the series I'm hoping for just because you've got last year's young and exciting team against this year's version, and at least their stars are both healthy and present. Missing Herter and especially Monk completely eliminates any chance I would have cited as an upset, but I do still believe it goes 6. Keegan Murray has expanded his game and shot palette from last year, which I'd expect to be leaned into a bit to compensate on offense. And I'm also super interested in the attempts they'll make at hounding Shea on defense. Even if they did so successfully, I think people are about to learn something about Jalen Williams. OKC in 6. So if I did stay hot from last year's predictions, it would yield a second round of Thunder Mavericks, Suns Nuggets, Celtics Cavs, Pacers Knicks. We'll just have to wait and see though. I am far beyond the years of trying to predict an entire bracket from day one. Too much changes. Let me know what you think in the comment section. If you agree with the predictions, why or why not, etc, etc. Also hit the like button if you enjoyed, and hit the bell next to my name if you want notifications every time a new video drops after subscribing. Appreciate you all watching, and I'll see you on the next one.